Well, here we are in Cities Skylines 2, and I've taken a break from the game for a while. Been playing more Cities Skylines 1 and some Anno 117 and other genres of games, but it is a special time for Cities Skylines 2 as we have the asset creator tool now live. We also have bikes added to the game, shipping, ports, industrial supply chain systems, skyscrapers. There's actually quite a bit that has been added to the game since last time I played, and so I decided it's time to begin again. And so here we are in the town of Providence. My commitment to myself here is I won't be using Google Maps, won't be copying any real places. This is going to be a build that comes purely from the imagination. Perhaps a little bit of inspiration coming from real places that I've enjoyed. When I look at this map, which is also a new map that came out along with the most recent DLC, I think, of course, of New Orleans, because you've got that nice river delta and these little islands in the middle of the river make me think of a sort of a swampy, marsh-like area. I can imagine there being some atolls there with alligators and all that stuff. Anyways, I think what we're going to do, because our starting tile is right there with some riverfront access, our downtown area is ultimately going to be facing that river, and we'll try to make the roads kind of the grids face the water, so it's not going to be just a uniform grid where all the streets are going north, south, east, west. We'll try to change it up and have some awkward intersections where different directions of grid coalesce and feed into some major avenues. But we are playing with normal difficulty, no unlimited money or unlimited anything, so it's going to be full experience to see what we can do to, you know, play the game as it was designed to be played. And I do want to kind of do my own thing here, so I'm going to delete those grids that were created for me. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to delete a portion of that highway as well. One thing I don't like particularly is that right out of the gate we have this nice highway interchange, but it is not, you know, it's not conducive to excellent traffic flow, because in a real city you wind up having, you know, a lot of different ways in and out of town. So I think having a little bit more like several different ways in and out is the goal. But we haven't bought that tile over there where the freeway is yet, so I'm gonna have to work with what we've got. Will be interesting to see what is the optimization like, because, you know, I know there's been some updates and some patches and stuff since last time I played, so it's possible that things are a little bit better than they were last time I played. Not that they were unbearable, but with Skylines 2, it's always been one of those things where, you know, like if you build a big enough city, you wind up having some optimization problems, even if you're running a top-end system. So we're going to just imagine that this freeway long term is going to be sort of a main avenue that'll be going toward the river. I do like the fact you can use these road tools to make parallel roads. Something you can't really do that in Skylines 1, so creating parallel roads that actually don't look a little bit awkward are much harder in the old game. So we'll do something like that. Then we'll start to build a grid out here. We could do maybe a roundabout. That would be kind of cool. Let's see if we can make a decent looking roundabout. Road tools are definitely one of the selling points of Skylines 2. Like, there's no comparing them to CS1. Like, making a perfect circle, not hard. If it was CS2, though, definitely takes a bit more finagling. All right. So there we have a nice roundabout. That can be kind of the anchor point of our city. And eventually, as the downtown grows, that could be a really nice sort of a open space, I'd imagine. Maybe have a park in the middle of that. Roundabout. That could be good. Just trying to get the road to be like perfectly centered. I don't know if it is. It's close enough though. And the thing about real cities is, even though they may have a illusion of symmetry, they're usually not perfectly symmetrical. Like, they're sort of symmetrical, but like Washington, D.C., if you go to Washington, D.C. and you look at that, like, it looks like it's a super well-planned city, but then there's a lot of angles that aren't really truly right angles, you know? All right, that's a little better. And then we'll name our streets. That's going to be another thing. But it's going to have to be purely from the imagination, so we're going to name them after probably things that I've seen in real life. You'd be surprised how many street names in real life are named after the same basic things, like animals or maybe major businesses or trees or plants. So in many cases, you'll find a neighborhood where like all the streets were laid out at a specific time at the same time. So you have like a neighborhood that's all named after trees. Then another neighborhood that's all named after, oh, I don't know, something like certain kind of like animals or something. In my old city in Helena, Montana, there was a neighborhood that was all named after different types of firearms. It was like Remington Street and you know, Smith and Wesson Street and stuff like that. It's kind of funny. All right. So that's a kind of a nice entry to the city. I guess I need to kind of stop focusing on the planning part and just start playing. Another thing that came out that I haven't actually experienced is the Netherlands building set. So we're getting our electricity from the outside. We'll just go ahead and put our substation there. We will want to build a power plant as soon as it's practical to do so, but right now it's probably not our main concern. We're going to want to do what we need to do to create a positive cash flow. Water tower, I think we're going to put it right there. So as you're coming into the city, you see water tower right there. It's a little bit off center there, but I guess that's okay. Yeah, kind of. Actually, maybe I'll do that. It's a little more centered. Yeah, I like that. And I like the design of that water tower. It kind of gives me the vibe of being more old, like a old French Quarter kind of a vibe, maybe. There's so many different architectural styles in CS2 now. It's actually pretty cool. It can be a little overwhelming though, because I kind of wish you could just like force the game to like just use a mixture of different styles. Because as it is, like you have to pick like what style do you want to use. But maybe what I actually want is a mixture of several different styles. And there we have still a real problem. Like if you want to have something facing this street, you can't do it because the game has aligned the zoning squares to face a particular road. So like you can't, like if I place this path, then I can kind of manipulate the game a little bit to make it let me zone facing the road I want. So it's one of those things. Like you have to kind of finagle with the game a little bit to make it let you do certain things you really probably shouldn't have to fight over. But, you know, not a big deal. Either way, having a little bit more like pedestrian pathing there is probably a good thing for us to do anyway. So we have a need for sewage processing. And unfortunately, I'm guessing like we're going to have to pump sewage into into the river, you know, like that's a bummer. So if we're gonna have to pump sewage into the river, then we'll at least put it over there so it's kind of downstream. But hopefully we can kind of avoid having to do that for too long. All right, so we got a sewage outlet, which is functioning. Power is carried through the street, so we don't have to worry about running a power line. So now we'll just lay out a few different styles of residential zoning and let some people move in. It's the Southwest style of businesses. That's kind of like your, probably the most American style of commercial zoning, I would say. Like the little strip mall kind of stores that you would see. Then we have low density waterfront business. That's a new building style. We're going to go ahead and do some of that here too. I have not ever really seen that before, so it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. Let's do a little bit of this Chinese style and then some European standard commercial plot. And then we're going to need some industrial zoning. I'm thinking we'll do our industrial zoning back over here. But I do want everyone who's coming into town to use this roundabout. I don't want to add an intersection way back here because they'll start cutting across and then they won't use our roundabout, I suspect. So it's using that road as a guide. We'll have to experiment with the new industrial expansion. Like you can build supply chains. So that'll be cool. I don't think we unlocked it yet though, because we're playing with achievements enabled and So we're going to have to unlock each step at the appropriate time. I think we've kind of done what we needed to do, though, to at least get started. So we'll speed up the game a little bit. We got a nice little diner here. Looks like a diner. So there's a bug. We got like some sort of a street sign that's just suspended up in the air. Looks like it's not the only one either. So maybe it's supposed to be on a sign post, but it's not. So you just have those invisible signs suspended in the air. That's kind of obnoxious. We'll delete those, see if they respawn correctly. That's the China style of building. Right now we're making a negative $800 per hour. So I guess we need to start expanding our neighborhoods. Get more people to move in. Unfortunately, there's these weird gaps in the zoning, so you can't fill up a city block exactly the way you maybe would want to, because you have those odd little gaps where there probably shouldn't be gaps. But you know, I guess I would justify it by just saying real cities are messy and sometimes haphazard, so there's gonna be some gaps, and that's okay. We are now a tiny village, and we now have unlocked small petrol station. That's pretty cool. And a few other signature buildings. Now, I believe signature buildings are completely free to place. They give you a benefit, but they don't come at any cost, so there's no reason why we wouldn't want to place those signature buildings as soon as we get them. I do think we're gonna add an intersection here, and we'll allow people to maybe what we'll do is, because I don't want to create excessive congestion, we'll go ahead and do a one-way street here. So if people want to come into town that way, that's fine. But we're not going to have issues with traffic adding congestion at this intersection. And then we'll put this small gas station here at the corner, so people can come, and as they're going into town, they are able to fuel up. We have the Fox Inn pub. That's a nice little place where people can gather, have a drink. So I think we'll put that right here. In the church inn. You know, I guess we could probably just put all of these little buildings next to each other. Reduces import costs, improves attractiveness, well-being. So just a little bit of extra unique buildings to make our main street area attractive. And those will be our first 2 commercial blocks. We have a shortage of workers, so I guess I've got to keep zoning residential. Unfortunately, when you start playing one of these games, you sort of realize you have to build a decent size city. It's not a town simulator, if that makes sense. Because you're going to have a need for services and a need for expansion, and like, it's for building a city, you know? It's not for building a little tiny town. Like right now, we're already building kind of a decent sized town here. And we've barely even started. Here's Mediterranean medium density housing. Now that might look nice if we put it in these blocks next to the waterfront. We do have a problem though. Somebody has perished. I guess we're going to need some medical services and our cemetery. I think we'll put the cemetery right there. That's kind of interesting. Overlooking the water. New Orleans has some really interesting cemeteries because they're above ground. And that's because there's issues with flooding in that area. So you can't really bury people in a swamp. So it's like a really weird kind of a thing. It's almost kind of cool and creepy all at the same time. But anyways, we got a place to bury our people when they die. So let's create a medical clinic. We'll put it right there. Just a little medical clinic. So those people over there who are waiting for an ambulance can now not be left alone there to ail and be miserable alone. We'll do some French medium density row housing. Here we have a space where the buildings went in and it left a gap. So maybe we'll do a footpath here, because we have empty space and just gives people a nice little area where they can kind of cut through that block. These buildings here do indeed look pretty great. You have to be careful with some of the zoning types, because like if they're not next to each other, you get those blank walls, which don't necessarily look all that good. Like there's a little gap. If we planned it better, we might not have that gap between those buildings, but I don't mind. So see, I was going to put a footpath, but then the footpath deleted the zoning. All right, we've leveled up again. What is this? A wide pavement path. I wonder. See. So we'll go ahead and put some trees in here to fill in those gaps. Won't look too bad. It's nice that you can just plant trees on roads wherever you want. Let's go ahead and decorate our roundabout coming into town. And for the first time, we're now making money. So what do we got here? See, those French style residences, they look kind of peculiar. Like those, the way the roofs are like, it's a half roof, and then you have that empty space. Like, is that normal? I don't know. I mean, I can see maybe that's just how they would be designed, but it does look a little bit weird. So that's all right. But I think what we want to do is maybe We'll do some more medium density housing there. Probably ought to do some kind of more like mid-rises. I wonder if we can... Do we have any access to parks yet? No, not yet. Guess we didn't unlock them yet. Here we have a tea salon. Looks like an Asian-inspired restaurant. Tea house. Maybe we'll put that there. Like, that'd be kind of nice, wouldn't it? You can come down this main street here, and then you can have tea looking out over the water. There's the Riverside Grill. Well, I suppose it would stand to reason we'd want to put the Riverside Grill next to the river. Would make some sense. Maybe it's a little bit too close to the river. We have a kind of weird looking terrain effect there. I don't know if I really made it much better there. There, it's a little better. Plant a few trees here to kind of conceal the oddities of the terrain. Nothing has come in there, probably because, see, those zones are facing Magnolia Street, which means because that zone there is facing Sunset Street here, and that zone block is facing Magnolia, nothing will develop. So the only way to fix it is to kind of do something to break it up so the game understands you don't want a 6 square deep block. You want it to be like a 2 or a 3 deep block. But that's okay. Adding a few pedestrian paths in the middle of the blocks is gonna probably do good for us anyway. It's one of those things where I think you can have unreasonable expectations for a game. Especially when it's one of these titles where we've spent a lot of time playing them for the years, and then you kind of have that feeling it's got to be perfect. And if it doesn't, if it has a little quirk or something here or there, then it's easy to get frustrated about it. Like, you know, why is it like that? but not that big of a deal. Now, I was also thinking if this is a more like a New Orleans style build, we might intersperse a few more palm trees into it, at least down by the water. One nice thing about the game is that you can build buildings underneath high tension wires. Did not used to be that way in former versions of the game. And we have a criminal. Look at that. So I guess it's time for the police to arrive. French police station. That looks kind of cool. Oh, we unlocked the bookshop. That's nice. We'll put the French police station there. It's a nice little police station for our town. One rule I try to follow when I'm building a city is to never really delete buildings or streets, because in real life, usually when something gets built, it'll stay there for a long time. And that's part of what gives a city a unique identity, that you don't really get to just go through and bulldoze everything. Like, you have to show some respect to what's already there. All right, so I think we've unlocked a few more unique buildings. So let's go ahead and probably place them. We can always move them around later on. We have a bigger gas station, and you know, if you go into the main part of a downtown area, you're probably not going to find a big gas station there, so I think we'll put this gas station over in the industrial area as well. We'll put it a little bit more toward the main part of town, so if people want to go to the gas station, they can. Look at that, an espresso on the go. There's a lot of really nice, unique buildings in Cities Skylines too. course, there's going to be a lot more now that we have custom assets in the game. And then we have alleys. So that's a bidirectional street. Which is pretty cool. Trying to go for more of an old, established feel. We're going to want to add more of those alleys too, because a lot of old cities have kind of weird little alleys that divide up city blocks and neighborhoods. And that can also be a way to help with the zoning issues. I wonder if we can do some office space. Another thing we can do is we can remove crosswalks, I believe. We can't do it yet. We have to unlock road services. But eventually we can remove those crosswalks so you don't have an intersection at every alley. The goal is to avoid any kind of reliance on mods. So there's going to be some things we could probably do if we wanted to mod the game, but we're not gonna mod any of it. So there we go. Adding that pedestrian path gives us just a little bit more we can do, and we're gonna be creative and add some office space and some Southwest style row housing. I like that. Those buildings look pretty nice. I think that one is the Japanese style. The truth is, there's not any styles of building that don't go well together. Like, you can just kind of mix them up and it creates the vibe of unique neighborhoods, but it's not like there's really a need to say, oh, well, you know, I'm not building a Chinese city, so I'm not going to use the Chinese buildings. Like, you can. Like, we'll do that. Chinese medium density housing. We're going to get a high rise, sort of. building there. My goal is to make a city that feels like a place where I would want to live, right? Like, and that's the challenge when you're starting off, to create something that feels interesting, something that feels personal, something that seems like a real place, rather than just that you've spammed out a whole bunch of roads while playing a game. We'll add one more feeder road into town, so potentially that'll help us some with the problem of having only one road in and out of town. Now I wonder if we can unlock. Yeah, we can. Okay, so we're gonna just expand a little bit. Now, the more you expand by buying tiles, the more upkeep price you have to pay. So we do want to be careful about that. But I do want to make use of that railroad and work on having more highway exits. But we don't need to build another highway exit quite yet, because it seems like what we have going on here is really working just fine. Now this open space, an interesting idea. I think we're going to create a one-way road here. At an interesting angle. Then we'll have another one-way road running parallel to it. And since we have another road feeding into this, I'm thinking, let's just do a make that a three-way roundabout. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. But I think it's big enough. We can get away with it. In any case, it gives incoming traffic that's coming down this street the ability to make a right turn and easily enter the roundabout without interacting or impeding with the existing incoming traffic. And now we have the opportunity to break up our grid and create something a little more interesting. And we are trying to steal a little bit of inspiration, probably from the vibe of New Orleans, which has a lot of grids that are kind of similar but facing different directions. And there's also a lot of narrow streets. So for this area, we're gonna leverage the use of more alleys. I like how the two grids kind of mesh together. I think it feels reasonably organic. Then if we add more industrial area here, it'll fill in, should fill in nicely. I was debating whether I wanted to put any buildings around this roundabout, or if I want to just leave it open. I'm thinking I just want to make that kind of like a park. Because if you think about all the traffic coming and going there, it might be kind of hard to access the area. We have a nice little pedestrian bridge so that if folks are trying to get across, they don't have to rely on the crosswalk. I don't know if I like that angle. There we go. A little bit better. I mean, that's another example of just the kind of ridiculous way zoning can sometimes not work out the way you'd want it to. Because if you look at those two blocks, they're fully zoned and they're filled. And yet if you look at them, like, they're not really full at all. And it's just because the zones don't really adapt properly to certain spaces. I didn't want a crosswalk there. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. Looks like we have some garbage backing up, so it's time to worry about building a landfill. I guess we'll put it over here, because it's got to go somewhere. We're going to place a smattering of palm trees throughout here. There's the bulldozers running around, moving garbage. It's pretty cool. So maybe we'll end the episode by creating our first new highway interchange. And this is going to be just a very simple American style exchange. We're going to have to unlock a few milestones so we can actually use freeways. There we go. That'll do the trick. Nothing fancy. Just a little bit of extra access into town so people don't have to have only one option if they're coming to town. Seems like we're doing pretty well. Our town has been founded. It's off to a decent start. It has a fairly distinctive look to it, I would say, all things considered. It's gonna take a little bit of time to make it our own, make it feel personal and cool, but I think I'm pretty satisfied with where we're at. So that's going to be where we end it for episode 1 of Cities Skylines 2 Let's Play, and we'll see where the city goes in the future as we continue to grow and evolve it with all of the various new updates and expansions that Cities Skylines 2 now has in its portfolio. Till next time, thanks so much.